years ago. In 1990, I was a varsity assistant baseball coach at Pflugerville High School. And I think it's 2020. That blows my mind, because I'm telling you, mentally, I'm 5, but mentally, I feel 25. I do not feel my age. I don't think it. I certainly don't act it. And it's when you look back at 30 years, all I have done in my lifetime is work with young people, primarily high school. People ask me all the time, I like seniors backwards. Probably the older I get, college backwards. Once you get down to like 12, they're just too smart for me. Like, they ask really, really hard questions. And I'm going to share one of them with you. I was in a clinic with some 10U, 12U kids. And check this out. This is, I don't know if she was 10 or 12, but somewhere between. This was in Houston. I think it was Eric Hayes' group or one of the, I can't remember what group it was, but it was a young group down in Houston. And I think it was the last question of the day. And this little bitty girl, she goes, "Why do you do this?" That's a hard question. Oh my gosh. Like, shut up. Who told you to ask the question? Right? And then now you're put on the spot. But that's where I want to start today. And I didn't throw out a bunch of notes. And if you could keep my phone on for me, like just keep, yeah, if they ask for money, just right there. There's all my notes right there. Don't let me lose them. But I love to read. Scott talks a lot about, I read like crazy. Mute your phone. Did you see who just texted me?
I was going to start texting.
Don't tell anybody. I love to read. And years ago, I tried really, really hard to read a book a week. True. And then a book a month, that was good. That was like a book every 5 years. But I found this book. Y'all know who Simon is, right? Simon Sinek. Y'all have heard him. He wrote this book. This actually, I think, stemmed from a little YouTube video. There's a little YouTube video. Some of you have probably seen it, where he did the circles, right? He did the why, and he really used Apple as his example. And that there are so many companies out there that they develop a product, then they figure out how they're going to do it, and then they go, now, why are we going to do this, right? And Simon basically said, well, define your why first. So I want to start with the question that girl asked me. And it can be rhetorical, but I really want you to process this. Why do you coach? Why did you get into this? Right? And don't think too deep. I started coaching on the girls' side because I had a daughter. Right? That's noble. It's just, that's the way it happened. My first kid was a girl, and second one was a girl. That was 4 girls, right? It was just destiny. My dog is a girl. It was just going to happen. I was going to be surrounded by a girl. By the way, her name is Maui, and it's the coolest dog we have. But why do you coach? Why do you coach? But think about that. Could you articulate it? Could you write it down? Because the reality is this, and I'm going to talk about this in a minute, and I know this frustrates some people, people that want to kick their great-grandma's butt in checkers and things like that. I don't coach to win. We can argue all day long. We're not going to talk resumes and how many wins and national championships and state tournament. We're not going to have that conversation. Okay? Because the first thing is this. The first truth is this. I've never won a game as a coach. Not one. Not a single game. I've coached a lot of girls who have won a lot of games. I've never won a game. I've never taken an at-bat in a softball game in my life. I've never played short. I've never done any of that in this sport that I get to coach, which, by the way, it's a joke, but it's true. If this sport were easy, they would call it baseball. They would make the bases longer so that the boys had more time to process because their minds are slower, right? They would make the fields bigger, but it's hard. They shrunk everything up and they made the game extremely fast, right? If you're a decent third baseman, there are moments that you're 40 feet from home plate, if not closer. It's a tough sport. I've never won a game. And I don't coach to win. Now, if you've played against me, right? I want to win. I'm fairly passionate. I wake up passionate. I bounce out of bed. But the reality is this, and I'm going to go backwards. At 14, when I was in high school, my parents walked out. Okay, I've shared a little bit of this story before. My mom remarried to a Navy guy. He was about 5'1". He had a huge chip on his shoulder. Hindsight being older looking back, he just didn't know how to be a dad. Being fair looking back. But at the time, you don't really care about whether he knows what he's doing or not. And so he chose to take my mom and just move away. We're not talking like I went and lived with grandpa or grandma. We're talking like I called a local pastor and said, hey, my parents are leaving. What do I do? He found me a home to live in, and he found me a job. My job was cleaning the church for $25 a week. That was my job, 14, 15, 16 years old. Then I got a promotion. We added 10 to 15 bucks if I would mow the church yard too. So I was banking way back in the day. My senior year of high school, I lived in my car. In the spring of 1986, I would sleep in the parking lot of a church. I would wake up, drive to my friend's house, Ronnie Young. Dated his sister for a little while. That's a whole nother story. But I would go to Ronnie Young's house. I would take a shower, get ready for school. I would drive to Bora High School in Boise, Idaho. Go to class, go to baseball practice. I would usually drive around for a while until it got dusk. I would drive back to the church parking lot. I would park in the corner. I put my seat back and I slept there. That's a true story. In May of 1986, I was living in my car and I graduated a few weeks later. Now back to the question. I determined when I was about 16 that I wanted God to allow me to grow up and maybe I would be in a position to say one thing to one kid that would make them believe in themselves. I wanted to grow up and hopefully I would stand in a room or I would be in a position in front of young people that I could look at a 14, a 15, a 16, a 17, an 18-year-old kid and say, yes, you can, no matter what the world tells you. That's why I coach. It's why I coach. There's a young lady named Kinsey. She plays at Hyde Park in Austin. She's not a travel ball kid. She's not even a softball player. She came and played softball at Hyde Park, the high school team I coach. And if you know me, I like to squeeze bunt. I don't care who you are. And so here's this kid who's never played the game before. And she drops down a squeeze bunt. I'm pretty sure that she hadn't gotten to first yet. I'm pretty sure this kid got a head start on me. But when that bunt was down, I sprinted across. This is in a live high school softball. I ran across the field. I was going nuts. Because this kid who had never played the game, in my mind, right? I mean, come on, you can't get more romantic than a suicide squeeze bunt. There's nothing better than that. And I'm running across the field, and halfway across, I'm like, and then I didn't know where to go. And so I kept going. And I ran over and I'm just hugging this kid, high-fiving her going, yes! That was my win. I won. I won a game. I won a moment. That was her freshman year. She's a junior this year. She's continued to play. That's awesome. Not me. What she did. That's awesome. And the beauty of this game, the beauty of this sport, isn't that you believe in kids. That's cool. I'll bet everybody raise their hand. The beauty is when you can coach a kid to the level that they begin to believe in themselves, that's powerful. I was talking to Nairi White yesterday just for a few minutes about her pitching and things like that. And she was asking some questions. And I'm not very smart. You understand how you do this, right? You dive and you dive and you dive and you dive and you dive, but it only takes the one great catch that people go nuts over, and they forget about the 100 times you dove and clearly missed the ball. Well, I just keep swinging. Sooner or later, the ball hits the bat, and you go, yeah, that's cool. And so I just talk long enough until something good comes out. But I was telling, she was talking about group lessons. She basically just said, what do you think about group lessons? And I was like, oh, I don't know, right? Let's go find somebody smarter than me. But here's the one thing that I did tell her. I said, when you can get in a group lesson, number the kids talent-wise or ability. Say 1 is your most talented, 5 is your least. Okay, if you have a group of 5 kids. I said, if you can get in a group lesson to where you get number 1 to come over and start coaching number 5 while you're working with 2, 3, and 4, that's pretty cool. Then all of a sudden you step back, right? And this kid over here, Burgess, he ain't over there giving hitting lessons. And as a coach, you're going, I won. That's a win. That's a victory. And people get frustrated. I have had arguments with coaches. What do you mean you don't coach to win? Okay, if you were sleeping, I want to beat the crap out of your team every time we play. Coach against me. You're going to see it. The passion's there. But I don't coach to win. I want to prepare to win. I want to encourage to win. I want to practice to win. I want to raise up kids and young student athletes that want to win the game. Quick story. Some of you may know this, but I spent 5 years at Westlake High School. Team chaplain, whatever you want to call it. I think it was student athlete development volunteer coach, something like that, because I guess you can't say chaplain. And there was a young man there, let's just say he was a quarterback, and never won a state championship at Westlake. He won a Super Bowl, though, later. But let's just say he's a quarterback. And there are about 300 kids out there in Schaap Stadium, and it was the summertime. And I said, well, who's the quarterback? Big old kid stood up. He's goofy, but he's tall. And I said, tell me how good you are. I said, come on, we're just family. Tell us how good you are. He kind of shared some things, and I said, I don't disagree with that. I said, you're pretty good. I said, okay, cool. So I said, sit down. And there, like I said, there's a big old crowd of football kids there. And so then I said this, don't get all jumpy. I told all the fat guys to stand up, right? You know what I'm talking about? They get proud of it. All the linemen said, hey, y'all stand up. And all these pretty good size. Westlake, they're not real big. Even their line's not real big. But all the big guys stood up, and I said, hey, I just want y'all to know that he doesn't need you. What? You see him getting all comfortable, right? I didn't say that. I was like, no, y'all just heard him. He's a pretty good quarterback. He got this. Y'all, he didn't even need you. No, that's not what I meant. He starts talking. I said, well, what'd you mean? He goes, no, I need those guys. I couldn't have scripted it better. If I could have told you that before I talked that I wanted to go to that kid and say, when I say this, you say this, I would have told him, say when I say this, I need those guys. And he said it on his own. He said it on his own. And when you get to the place where your athletes begin to understand, not that I want you or I want to use you, but I actually need you in my life. I've never seen a pitcher throw a perfect game alone. It can't happen. It cannot happen. Somewhere in every one of those games, something great took place. Great throw, great catch. She missed a spot. Center fielder goes over the fence. And if all that doesn't happen, somebody behind the plate caught all those pitches. This game can't happen alone. The following is true. I don't know how many people are in here. 40 people? I don't know. Whatever's in this room right now. I promise you on my best day, I would be fortunate if I was middle of the pack at the talent that's in this room. On my best day. There's one guy in the room, well, other than James and Scott, that has coached with me, and they will know this. A head coach, he's only as good as the people that coach with him. Period. How many of you are the head coach? Just raise your hand. Don't be shy. You're the top guy. When the umpire says, who's the head coach? They point to you. Right? Okay, you guys. Let me tell you something. The best of you are that because of who you chose to coach with you. Y'all know Gary Altman. If you know Gary, Tom's going to get all offended now. Gary's his favorite. Damiani's like the second favorite. We were at IDT in Boulder a few years ago, and I'm going to touch on this. An umpire, this never happens. An umpire made a hideous call. It was brutal. Oh my gosh, it was terrible. And I was just fired up. Now, I've never been thrown out in all these years, but I've been kenneled twice. It's like umpire lingo for timeout. Okay, you're the boss. Right? You go sit like you're in timeout. And so I'm in the dugout, so I'm not allowed to leave. And so me being me, I did this every inning. Because I'm just immature. And so Gary Altman, if y'all know him, that dude's a great coach. His daughter Tara plays at Texas State right now. Gary Altman's a great coach. And he's over at third base, and in my mind, I'm thinking, it sucks over there, doesn't it? Y'all think that's all glorious over there, a lot of pressure. And this is what happened. This was genuine. The game ended. We were fortunate enough to pull it off. And at IDT, it's one and done. You lose, you go home. We were fortunate to get through that game. And we're out behind the dugout, the girls are all going, and Gary is just pissed at me. I mean, don't you ever do that again. He's just going off. And what he ended with, he goes, because they need you. They need you to be in the game. Here's the takeaway. That's what made Gary Altman a great assistant coach. He had the ability to get in my face and he had an ability to control my blood pressure, honestly, like no other person I've coached with. And I needed it. And by the way, it's why those kids won a lot of games. Wasn't the head coach, but it was the wisdom of the head coach to go give them a whole bunch of great coaches. And that's important. Understand why you do things. Now, I want to touch on these 3 things, and somebody just keep me on time because I'll just freaking ramble. I want to touch on a couple of things that are really, really important. Somebody's about to be mad at me, and that's okay, because I got like 1,332 friends, so if I only have one less, that's okay. I want to touch on 3 topics. Number 1, dealing with sports officials. Oh, it's about to get awkward. It's about to get awkward. I understand the game, right? I love talking, and I love talking to you too. I look at Burgess over. I love talking the game with James. Dude, he's so passionate. Like, I love hanging around him. I love talking to him about the game. He's smarter than me. He's got a little bit more passion than me. But he's just a good dude to talk about the game. Let me tell you something. If you've played, if you've coached, you understand this. That there are moments in a game that just fry you when it goes wrong. There are moments in a game that fry you when it goes wrong. I know you have a story. I personally have never seen an umpire ultimately dictate the outcome of a game. Now, hang on, I know you have a different story. I've seen umpires make calls in the first or second inning that I know changed the momentum of the game. Now, did it change the ultimate outcome? I don't know. We can never know that. But I know that you just changed the momentum of the game, right? I'm okay with getting fired up. Let your kids know you care. When I go out to welcome and thank an official in the middle of a game and tell him what a great job he's doing, I only go out for one purpose. This is me. Because I want my kids to know you are working your butt. If you've ever been around me, I will say stuff like this, sometimes unfortunately out loud. They're working hard, and you're not. All I want you to do is work hard. Run from there to there and get in a position. That's all I want out of them, right? There is never, ever a reason to allow an altercation with an umpire to escalate. Ever. When I hear stories of officials being approached in parking lots, and when I hear stories of officials being approached outside the fence, when I hear moms and dads that just won't stop, I've seen more parents ruin a game on the first pitch, or the strike, with the game just started. Thank you, mom of the pitcher. Now for the next 7 innings, I got to deal with Bob because you're mad over one pitch. Man, pick your battles. Don't freaking yell from way over there. You might see height, but you can't see in, out. I know, I'm going by where the catcher caught. You don't know jack from over there. Man, you just don't. But here's what I can tell you. We do more harm than good. In all my years of doing what I do, a year ago in Williamson County, Texas, I was invited to come speak to Tasso. Now, I don't know how to tell you this, but when the umpires invite you to speak, you feel honored. You're like, what? You just invited a coach to come talk to the umpires? And here's why I'm saying what I'm saying right now. In that meeting, it's a group about this size. I said this to them. I said, every single time I speak in front of a group of coaches or players, I promise you I'm going to make a comment about sports officials. And I'm sticking to that promise. I'm just telling you, Don't stay away from it. I get embarrassed when I hear stories about people that I coach with that it escalates. I'm not saying don't get fired up. I'm not saying don't argue a call. I'm not saying don't defend your team. I'm okay with that. And if you cross that line, you get kicked out, I'm okay with that. That's fine. Scott gets kicked out all the time. So he crosses the line, and I got that little smart mouth. I go right to it, then I go, good job. But here's the deal, right? If it turns physical, if it turns personal, you've crossed the line. By the way, you shouldn't be coaching. You shouldn't be coaching. Now, colleague to colleague, friend to friend, control your parents. Man, every now and then I'll hear a coach go, man, that her dad. No. That's your dad. I'm sorry. There's a remedy. There's another team for you somewhere. God bless y'all. Hope you do well over there. I've shared this story before. You guys have heard it before. I cut a Tennessee kid and I cut a Baylor kid from my team. I cut a Big 12 kid. I cut an SEC kid from my team. I cut them. Nice day. It's never worth it. Big picture, it's never worth it. It's never worth it. And I'm telling you, at some point, you have to make a point. I have a parent meeting every year, and some of you know this, Ken Erickson and I, a really good friend of mine. We talk on the phone often, and I love it. And he's asked me many times, you need to give parent talks to teams. I'm a black and white guy. I don't know how to do it. Dad, shut your mouth. I don't know what to say to you. I get the passion. My wife and I have raised 7 kids. They all played sport. Name the sport. We played it in our lifetimes. I felt that sitting in the chair. Oh, that call sucks. You're terrible. Why in the world did she just call bull? She don't know what she can't coach. That dude, he just sent her home and she got thrown out. What's he think? I've had all those thoughts. Every one of them. And sometimes it burns a little. And sometimes I'm getting high. I want to get up. I understand it. But here's the deal. We got to hold one. We all need a Gary Altman in our life. We all need a Coach Gary in our life. We all need that person that has the freedom to say, whoa, come back over here. Hey, sports officials, we good on that? Did I kind of make a little bit of a point? Y'all sensitive. You're like, oh, he was at my game. He talking to me. You ever in church? No, in church, and the preacher going, and God said, and you go, holy crap, she called him. She told the preacher, right? I'm only saying it because we've all been there. I get it. Okay, now the second awkward conversation. I'm tired. If this offends you, there's the door. I'm tired, sick and tired of picking up the newspaper and reading about inappropriate behavior. I'm done. I'm done. I'm so sick of it. I'm going to tell you something. Man, I trust my daughter with you. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I'm tired of it. And I'm not just talking about straight sex. I'm talking about inappropriate in any form or fashion. When I first had a daughter, and my oldest is Kayla, I love my kids. I think I do. I try to, the best I can. I love the girls I coach. And we all wrestle with our kids. And I remember the first day that I never thought this thought would come into my head. I'm wrestling with my daughter out in the front yard, and I'm body slamming her, right? Just dad and daughter. And there was one dude I thought, I wonder what the neighbor thinks when they drive by. And I never thought I would think that, because you think your mind is as pure as that. You go, no, I'm wrestling with my kid. But the world has changed that. The world has turned perception into reality. I know, stand up right here, Coach. I know a big time, you probably know the story I'm talking about, but I know the story on the phone firsthand. I know a story right now of a coach, college coach, walked through the dugout and said, hey, touched the girl by the hip, moved her to the side so he'd get down the dugout. And next thing you know, that story turns into inappropriate touching or something. We live in a world, you're good, I'm going to put you on the spot. We live in a world that every little thing can be taken out of context. Now here's my point. Stupid, quit helping them out. We have to navigate enough of the stuff that you're going, why do I have to defend that? And then we have some people in our profession making it easy for those accusations to happen. Let me tell you a couple things that I don't care for. Be mad all you want. A couple things that I don't care for. I personally don't care for male coaches telling me how good looking or hot or what that player looks like. You're going, holy crap, it just got awkward. Don't look at me like that. You've heard those comments. I hate it. Drives me nuts. First thing that goes through my mind is some 50-year-old dude is going to talk about my 17-year-old blonde girl like that. She's a softball player. And by the way, she's probably 10 times more intelligent than you'll ever be. I don't play the race card. I don't play the gender card. Man, I grew up in L.A. I grew up in Los Angeles. You can check where I lived. I spent 2 summers in the Buckingham Medical Building. That's off Crenshaw and MLK. I'm just telling you, I don't play that card. I don't play the gender card. I don't play the race card. That's bull. And we got to quit helping people out. Let me just give you a couple rules that I have. You don't have to have these. I just want to give them to you. I'm not saying anything to any player that I would not be okay in this story with a male coach saying to one of my daughters. Rule number 1. Would I let Nate say what I just said? Would I let him say that to my daughter and be okay with it? I'm not making those comments. Number 2, in all my years, I'll tell you the story about it too because it's kind of funny. In all my years, I've never given a female athlete a ride home alone, ever. I just haven't. I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying that I go way over here because we live in a world now that somebody just has to say boo and you're scared. But I do want to tell you a funny story. And I asked Chelsea if I could tell this story. A couple years ago, I had a kid named Chelsea Sager to play for me. She's at Tennessee right now. And you heard the rule that okay, there's one exception, okay? It's just so her mom, Renee, said, hey, I can't get to Houston, blah, blah, blah. Can Chelsea just ride with you? And it just, everything. I'm not going to break my rule. But it was Chelsea. Chelsea's like a daughter, and I know we fall into that trap. So Chelsea's riding in the truck, and it's about 7 o'clock in the morning. Get ready to laugh, because look, it's just funny, okay? We're driving in the truck, the music's playing, and we're on Interstate 10 headed into Houston, and I don't know Chelsea, maybe her senior year. She's 17, 18, just a great kid. She's next to me, and she may have been dozing off, and I'm driving. She thinks my tractor's sexy comes on the radio. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm freaking driving with one of my players right here. I already don't do this, and this guy's got to come on the radio. And I was thinking, that stinks. And what's really funny, though, is I heard quite a bit later in the season that Chelsea told that story to our team and said, oh my gosh, I was riding the car to Houston, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, look, here's the deal. There's just so much stuff that goes on in the world. Don't put yourself in that position. Now let me back up for a second. Hold one another accountable. Find an accountability dude. I've got several men in my life. I call them 4 close friends. Maybe you have 100. I have 4 people that are truly, truly close to me. One of them great, always asks about my spiritual life. But I've got one buddy who always asks me about my thought life. He asks me how I'm doing. You know, just in life in general, in every area, all kinds of stuff. I love that dude. I love that dude. He holds me accountable for everything that I do. Look, if Nate gets mad because wait for a second, bro. Man, you were hard on that kid. You said a couple things. That's not you. If he gets mad because his buddy's holding him accountable, there might be a deeper problem there. Probably way out of the car. I appreciate that. I was really hot, whatever. Have somebody in your life that's accountable. By the way, not that you need it. You absolutely have my permission to text me, call me anytime, and say, man, that was kind of out of character for you. And I'll do one of 2 things. I'll tell you why it happened and kind of the story behind it, or I'll look at you and say, I was wrong, and I'm sorry that I let you down and that I represented the Bombers that way. Those are the only 2 things you're going to hear from me. Man, if we lived in a world where more people owned it, I'm sorry, it's pretty powerful. I'm wrong, it's pretty powerful. I made a mistake, is pretty powerful. Now, you don't have to like what I just said, but here's the deal. Sorry if it's funny, I'm right. I'm not trying to be funny, I'm right. Do you understand the depth of trust that goes into this profession? And by the way, for all the female coaches in the room, man, it's on you to help us out. I don't know that they're in the room right now, and if they are, that's okay. I had a female coach near me with the team in the dugout use the P word. Please tell me I don't have to explain. It freaking ticked me off. If that word had come out of my mouth, I'd be fried. There is not a double standard. There is not a double standard. If you coach with me and you are male or female, I will treat you the same respect. I will hold you to the same level of accountability, but there cannot be double standards in this profession. And I'm just telling you, help me out. Help come alongside and partner with me so that we can do this thing together. I will never, ever, ever, ever be able to coach with a female mind. And there are some things that a female coach will never. I've done the surveys. I've asked girls, hey, do you prefer male coach or female coach? It's pretty split. It's pretty split. There are many female athletes that will tell you that the male coach just comes across differently, right? Dudes, we understand this, right? Because we all played for that guy who said, back in my day, we did it, right? And there was that, they could actually say, I can't say that in softball. I could never look at a female athlete and say, back in my day, I did it this way, and this, because there are things that I will never understand about it. So there's value in both, and both. The perfect coaching staff to me would be a good split, a good diversity. I've always, all of my pitching coaches, Ashley Aaron, and now I love her, Holly Long, love that girl. And just some phenomenal young ladies who bring so much wisdom to the game and do so many things that help me grow. Hey, did I kind of make that point a little bit? Be appropriate. I'm tired of reading the newspaper. I'm trying to read about the last coach that was arrested for blah, blah, blah. I'm done with it. And it ought to flat piss you off when that happens. Hey, hold each other accountable. Hey, let me give you this last thing, and I don't know what, and I'll lighten it. I did that on purpose. Championship winning. Championship winning. I don't know that I know how to win because I said this. It just happened. It just happened. Like we woke up and it happened. And how cool was that? I don't know how it happened. But back to where I started, that I don't coach to win. I think that so much of building a winning culture comes from you and I. And I say this to Scott. Matter of fact, I think McCorkle and I were talking about this just for a minute last night. Everything has to come from here. It just does. In this sport, right, I do this talk on one voice. When our youngest son, Brandon, just turned 18, when Brandon was, this is a true story. You ask my mother-in-law, and she don't lie. Brandon just came out, he's like 32 seconds old, right? And mom's holding him. And I was like, Brandon, dude, daddy's here. Listen, now we all know, right? Babies can't see, it's just a little fuzzy. They certainly can't move their heads off. Brandon's laying on his mom, I'm behind him. And Grant, who does not lie, Sally O'Neill, Odessa, Texas. I'm going, Brandon. And Sally said his eyes rolled over trying to find me. For 9 months, I'd be like, Brandon, you in there? Baseball, greatest sport. Remember that? Daddy, greatest person. Remember that? And I would talk to him, sometimes singing, which is what ruined him. That explains a lot. But I talked to him all the time. He knew my voice. In the middle of a game, your players have to hear one voice. Y'all know Jeff Kirk. Y'all know Jeff Kirk, Blaze coach. Jeff Kirk turned his team over to a really great group of young ladies. And I was standing with Jeff behind the dugout, and gosh, forgive me, but his third base coach was sending a girl, and Jeff's next to me, and Jeff's going, stop! And Jeff's older than me, which simply means this: I respect. If you're older than me, I don't care what generation you grew up in. If you're older than me, you have my respect in the discussion, and it ought to still be that way. But I looked at Jeff and just reaction. Oh, you can't do that. They gotta hear her voice. They gotta hear her voice. Culture has to be set by you. If you're the head coach, you need to define what your culture is going to be. Then you need to surround yourself with other coaches who can support that culture. If you can't support my culture, you can't coach with me. We're not negotiating this thing. You can't. You're not going to cuss out a kid and coach with me. You're not going to, in any way, cause any kind of. I had a coach one time. I won't tell you his name because you would know him and you like him. He's a good coach. He's a good dude. And he was the first year with me. Tom might know who I'm talking about. And we're in the middle of a game, and I was like, we got to quit missing signs. And I'm just fired up. And this guy, who's my assistant coach, turns and goes, well, they don't know what you're... Right in front of everybody. Oh, heck no. And if you know me, it took me 10 seconds to go, you need to come down here. And we went all as far down the third baseline as we could get. And I said, that'll never happen again. You will even if you're right, that will never happen again. When this thing's over, man, we go sit down, have some lunch, and have that conversation. When you are divisive as coaches in front of your players, you cripple your team. You cripple your team from ever achieving the success that they'd be capable of. If you can't coach with him or her, you need to move on. That's just tough truth. The second thing that I think helps, and this is a tough one. How many of you coach your daughter currently? Okay, that's cool. So did I. I coached them all. Look, here's the deal. You can't coach your daughter. Now, she can be on your team. But this guy right here has a daughter that plays for me right now. He's not allowed to coach her. Dude, you're not her coach. I am. You want to have talk at dinner at home, you have whatever you want. You talk about Coach Carp, we'll have issues because she'll call me. And my dad, true story, had a girl named Emily. We'll leave it at that. And I got all mad, no. Why does Coach Carp do this? So I decided that I took a game and I told the players, you get to make all the calls. If we steal. You want bunt? I'm not making any calls. First inning, leadoff gets on, steals, thrown out. I kid you not. The 2-hole gets on, steals, thrown out. Dad over here is losing his flipping mind. He probably got heart issues now. He's losing his mind. He gets in the car. He's driving home. This is a high school game. He's driving home with his daughter, ripping me. I can't believe he makes a stupid blah, 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 blah. Finally, Emily goes, stop. She goes, Carp turned the game over to us today. He didn't make one call, didn't give one sign in that game. Dad don't have a clue what's going on. Perception's reality, right? And sadly, we live in a world that everybody makes up their own narrative. Social media is horrible. So look, if you coach your daughter, you're not allowed to coach them. They be on your team, you just can't coach them. Find the assistant coach and say, that's your girl. You can do. I'm not going to coach her. Now, if she don't slide at third, she's going to hear from the coach. But let somebody else coach your daughter. I'm telling you that for you. Several years ago, my younger daughter hit 4 triples in the UIL playoff. I just want to say that. That's my daughter. Right? She's fast. We're fast in our family. We don't look, well, I'm still fast. We don't look it, but we're fast. And I'm sitting in the chair, and Faye Free-J, I don't know if y'all know her, longtime high school coach at Elgin, great lady. I'm sitting in my chair, daughter strikes out. I can't tell you what's going on the inside, but demeanor. 7th inning, the game-tying triple. Never moved. On the inside, my daughter, little Carp, right? It's on my touch, right? Never moved. And Faye, who retired, she goes over behind me. She goes, how do you do it? And I was like, oh no, you have no idea what's going on inside. Freaking change up. She looked at in the first inning. Oh my gosh, right? And it's discipline. Come on, grow up. You a grown human being. Discipline yourself, right? But you got to keep it all together, right? The other thing is this. He just walked in. I so wanted to tell a story, and then he walked in. So, hypothetically, you're in a game, and your pitcher walks the lead off. Hypothetically, they have it. Don't lose your mind. It's okay. You know what a walk is in my world?
Is it really though? Is it?
I thought we locked the door, Bacon.
Like the national championship game against Batbusters, is it really?
Hey,
Is it okay? The one run game?
You and Jay do what you're doing up there. So, but listen. And hey, by the way, and I'm going to say this right now, and I would have said it with him not in here, but let me hold that for a second because I want to talk about that. Be able to poke and have fun. Be able to poke and have fun with each other. But you know what I try to teach the girls, Bacon probably knows this, he probably heard it from his daughter. You know what I try to teach our girls, and we actually did this in California this summer. I said, you know what that walk is? It's a freaking double play. Let's get a ground ball turned double play, right? I'm mad that we just walked this lead off. Why are we doing that? But so often, we lose the game in the first inning because we now have rocked our entire team. I'm not talking about don't be passionate. If you don't think I'm passionate, you need to come watch. We're playing 16U Burgess, and I'm like, let's go! I always want to win. I always want to play at a high level. But the reality is this. Gary Oldman. Dude, they need you. They need you. Everybody's great when we're winning. You ever notice that? I would write this down. Be great when you are losing, and I promise you will win. Be great when you're losing, and I promise you will win. Have you ever played in back-to-back 18U gold national championship games? Anybody? Back-to-back. I'm talking about 2 tournaments in a row. Cool, I have. You didn't say that to be funny. I mean, I would laugh too, you arrogant jerk. We're at IDT 2016. We're at IDT. We're 12-0. Smoked the Corona Angels. Beat them 12-4. Matter of fact, we smoked everybody in that tournament. When we get to the championship game, now mind you, we scored 83% of our runs in the 5th, 6th, 7th innings in 2016. At IDT, they play on a flippin'